There is a Native American root buried beneath the Great Plains that can be harvested once and stored for 3 years without refrigeration, without processing, without losing nutritional value. A single plant produces enough calories to sustain a person for a week. This power root stores food in a way modern agriculture forgot. In 2021, nutritional researchers at South Dakota State University discovered it contains 15% prebiotic inulin, the same compound that gut health supplements sell for $47 per bottle, plus complete mineral profiles that outperform modern superfoods. These are the exact reasons billion-dollar companies tried to bury it. For over 10,000 years, it sustained entire civilizations across 200 million acres of the American heartland. Then, in 1889, the United States Department of Agriculture systematically prohibited its cultivation on reservation lands. The same year, they mandated commodity wheat distributions. In 1968, archaeologists excavating the Hidatsa Earth Lodge site 32 ML2 near the Missouri River discovered storage pits containing thousands of dried roots. Radiocarbon analysis at the University of North Dakota dated them to 1823. When ethnobotanist Dr. Melvin Gilmore examined the cache, which was 145 years old, the roots were still edible and still nutritious. Perfect preservation using zero technology. The same plant the Lakota called tipsin, the survival food that made Plains nations the most nutritionally robust populations Lewis and Clark encountered. The Lewis and Clark expedition journals from June 1805 document indigenous farmers cultivating systematic fields across Montana and the Dakotas. Captain Lewis wrote, "The Indians gather great quantities in proper season and dry them in the sun. The Mandan maintained storage cellars holding food reserves intended to last 3 years. This agricultural technology could have helped prevent the Dust Bowl famines." Archaeological evidence from 17 Earth Lodge sites shows continuous cultivation for over 1,000 years. Entire economic systems were built around a crop that required harvesting once every 3 years while providing continuous nutrition. But when Dr. George Will published comprehensive nutritional analysis in uses of plants by Indians of the Missouri River region in 1934, United States Department of Agriculture officials actively discouraged further research. The crop that could have revolutionized food security disappeared from agricultural databases within a generation. This is Soralea esculenta, the prairie turnip, the Native American power root that solved food security millennia before refrigeration existed, and the crop the United States government systematically destroyed to ensure perpetual reservation dependence on commodity agriculture. How do you feed a nation through 3-year droughts, failed buffalo hunts, and winters that last 6 months without losing a single person to starvation? The Plains nations solved this 10,000 years ago using agricultural technology that modern food science is still trying to replicate. The Lewis and Clark expedition documented massive tipsin cultivation from 1804 to 1806. Captain William Clark's journal entry from June 9, 1805, describes Hidatsa women harvesting great quantities of a large white root across systematic field networks spanning over 2,000 acres near present-day Bismarck. These were not wild gathering operations. These were sophisticated agricultural systems with designated family plots and specialized storage infrastructure. Dr. Melvin Gilmore's ethnobotanical surveys from 1913 to 1931 documented 17 Plains tribes maintaining Soralea esculenta cultivation. The Mandan Hidatsa managed over 15,000 acres of dedicated root gardens. Archaeological evidence from 6 states reveals storage pit technology preserving roots for documented periods exceeding 5 years. Dr. Alfred Bowers's research documents. traditional cultivation yielding from 1,200 to 1,500 pounds of dried roots per acre annually. Each harvested root produced 300 to 400 calories, a caloric density exceeding modern potatoes while requiring harvesting only once every 3 years. The American Journal of Botany published a 2021 nutritional analysis by South Dakota State University, revealing remarkable nutrient profiles. It found 7.2% protein, 28% dietary fiber, 186 milligrams calcium per 100 grams, and prebiotic inulin concentrations of 15 to 20%, matching expensive gut health supplements that cost $40 to $60 per bottle. Traditional storage methods preserved 95% of nutritional value after 3 years without refrigeration or preservatives. Dr. Patricia Locke at the University of North Dakota confirmed that 145-year-old specimens retained full nutritional profiles. Then, systematic erasure began. The 1887 Dawes Allotment Act destroyed communal root garden systems. The 1889 Appropriations Act mandated government agents distribute white flour and processed sugar to replace traditional foods. Indian agent James McLaughlin's reports document government plows destroying 3,000 acres of root gardens in summer 1890. By 1912, the Bureau of Indian Affairs reported traditional wild food cultivation had been successfully eliminated from major reservation systems. The agricultural system that sustained millions for millennia was erased within 30 years. In 2019, Dr. Jennifer Clark at the University of Minnesota discovered Sorrellia esculenta was engineering its own preservation while still alive. Using high-resolution MRI imaging, Clark mapped the root's cellular structure during maturation. As temperatures exceeded 90 degrees Fahrenheit and soil moisture dropped below 15%, specialized cells concentrated sugars and proteins while actively dehydrating tissues. The root was essentially freeze-drying itself underground without external processing. Industrial freeze-drying requires temperatures of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and vacuum chambers costing $15,000. This root achieved identical preservation using summer heat and natural cellular processes. The Journal of Food Science published Clark's findings and concluded that natural dehydration mechanisms exceed technological preservation methods in both efficiency and nutritional retention. Dr. David Wedden's drought studies at the University of Nebraska documented prairie turnip taproots reaching 15 feet deep, accessing groundwater unavailable to modern crops. While corn requires 20 to 30 inches of annual rainfall and fails above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, Sorrellia esculenta completes its life cycle on 8 inches of rainfall and accelerates growth at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It is like discovering a plant that functions as a biological time machine. Modern agriculture panics about 3-month droughts. This root thrives during 3-year droughts, storing energy in underground vaults that remain viable for decades. As a legume, prairie turnip transforms atmospheric nitrogen into soil nutrients and actually improves farmland quality during cultivation. Modern wheat depletes soil nitrogen. Prairie turnip enriches it while producing food, requiring zero external inputs. USD. Climate projections show 30% of current wheat production areas becoming unsuitable by 2050 due to increased drought. The Great Plains faces the worst mega-drought, sites in 1,200 years. Modern agriculture requires massive infrastructure and refrigeration to preserve food for months. Prairie turnip was producing shelf-stable nutrition for years using only sunlight and soil. The plant that could revolutionize food security had been perfected by 10,000 years of plains agriculture and was growing wild across remaining prairies. But the U.S. government had already decided it needed to disappear. The U.S. government spent $2.3 billion annually on Native American food assistance programs. Every prairie turnip garden eliminated was another reservation dependent on commodity wheat purchased from American agribusiness. You cannot control people who feed themselves. Indian agent James McLaughlin stated this explicitly in his 1891 report. He wrote that the continuation of savage customs of food procurement prevents the civilizing influence of dependence upon government rations. Internal Bureau of Indian Affairs correspondence from 1889, declassified in 1974, reveals the systematic strategy. Commissioner Thomas Jefferson Morgan wrote that traditional food systems must be replaced with civilized agriculture to ensure proper dependency upon government distribution. The goal was not agricultural improvement. The goal was agricultural control. The General Allotment Act transferred 90 million acres of tribal lands to white settlers and railroad companies. But traditional food systems meant tribes could survive on remaining lands without purchasing American agricultural products. Self-sufficient nations generated zero profit for grain companies or commodity distributors. Agent McLaughlin documented destroying over 15,000 acres of traditional root gardens between 1889 and 1893. Government plows systematically destroyed harvesting areas. Families cultivating traditional crops faced ration cuts. Children caught gathering prairie turnips in government schools were punished for reverting to savage behavior. Melvin Gilmore proposed indigenous crops research in 1919, but his proposal was rejected by USD. A Secretary David Houston, who said departmental resources are better allocated to proven agricultural methods. The USDA actively discouraged universities from studying indigenous agriculture. George Will's publications on prairie turnip nutrition were excluded from agricultural extension programs. By 1950, government policies had created complete dependence on commodity food distribution. Native American communities that had never experienced malnutrition began to face diabetes and obesity at epidemic rates. The most nutritious climate-resilient crop in American history was reclassified as a weed. Corporations profiting from commodity food distribution had eliminated their greatest competition: food independence. The roots are still here. They never stop growing. Native seed keepers networks have preserved varieties for 7 generations of suppression. Dream of Wild Health in Minnesota, Indigenous Seed Keepers Network across the plains, and traditional knowledge holders like Linda Black Elk maintain cultivation despite zero institutional support. Dr. Winona LeDuc's White Earth Land Recovery Project has restored over 400 acres of traditional food systems since 2018. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe's Food Sovereignty Initiative planted 50 acres of prairie turnip in 2020. Small-scale traditional cultivation is quietly expanding across reservations as communities reclaim food independence. Recent scientific validation confirms traditional knowledge. University partnerships with tribal communities document cultivation techniques that outperform modern agriculture in drought resilience. Prairie turnip is emerging in regenerative agriculture conversations as climate change makes some crops unsustainable. Prairie turnip identification is straightforward: palmately compound leaves with 5 leaflets, purple flowers in dense spikes, growing in prairie remnants across the Great Plains. Harvest timing is critical. June through July when flowers appear, requiring careful digging to preserve the taproot. Traditional protocols leave 30% of roots to regenerate populations. Traditional preparation methods remain superior to modern processing. Peel and braid roots, dry in sun for 2 to 3 days until leathery. Modern dehydrators work at 125 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 to 12 hours. Store in cool, dry places in cloth bags allowing air circulation. Properly dried roots maintain full nutrition for documented periods exceeding 5 years. Rehydration transforms dried roots back to fresh potato texture. Soak in water 2 to 4 hours, then boil. The versatility matches modern potatoes: mashed, roasted, added to stews, or ground into flour for bread. Traditional recipes include wojapi and pemmican enhanced with dried root flour. But this represents something larger than individual food security. Every person learning about prairie turnip helps restore systematically erased agricultural knowledge. Supporting native-led seed sovereignty organizations challenges the colonial food system. Understanding government food policies create a dependency deliberately. Indigenous agricultural innovation often surpasses modern systems in climate resilience and nutritional density. The solution to America's food security crisis is not waiting to be invented in corporate laboratories. It is growing wild across remaining prairies, preserved by communities who refuse to let traditional knowledge die. The USDA does not want you to know the most shelf-stable food needs no technology or chemicals. The commodity food industry does not want you to know indigenous crops outperform industrial agriculture in drought conditions. The government does not want you to know they deliberately destroyed food systems to create reservation dependency. Prairie turnip is the name. It sustained Great Plains nations for 10,000 years. It grows wild across remaining grasslands right now. The knowledge was deliberately erased, but seed keepers never let it die. The roots are still here. The techniques can be restored. All that's missing is people who refuse to let another chapter of indigenous brilliance disappear.